So Mitsurugi Yummy just won the recent YCS and YCS Lima this past weekend, and it also did very well at YCS Lille in France, right? So let's go ahead and talk about it. As you guys can see already by the title, I'm gonna be talking about this deck. Might be a little bit of a hot take and why I don't think it's so good anymore, even though I think prior to this it's very good. So that's a very key difference there to make, right? I'm not just saying it because you know, I want to be different or anything. Opinions change due to different, you know, results and things like that. Yu-Gi-Oh is like an ever-changing game. To even prove it, if you guys were looking at my refined tier list video, which I made before the YCS even happened, this came out like Thursday or Friday prior to the YCS. As you can see, I put Mitsurugi Yummy as a YCS winning deck, and guess what? Well, won the YCS, right? So, you know, shout outs to me for always being correct, obviously. So like, comment, subscribe for that. But the point I want to make from that is that now that that's passed, I actually want to talk about how I don't think this deck is good anymore, obviously, once again, by the title, but I'm going to go ahead and explain why in this entire video, and I specifically put this here, you know, as like a disclaimer, because I do not want people to go back in my tier list video and be like, yo, dude, you put this as YCS winning, why'd you change your opinion? Well, things happen, right? Like, events happen and things change, right? You can't just follow the same thing. Remember when Triff said, oh yeah, don't play a Croaky, that shit's bad, or whatever, and then he ended up playing it? Well, guess what? The meta changed, you know? Like, he had his reasoning for, like, Draco Tail was being better, and that makes sense, you know? So, this is a very key importance here. So let's go ahead and get started with some of my reasonings. But before that, I kind of wanted to show how, you know, even without Triff winning the YCS with Mitsurugi Yummy, a lot of people were already starting to play this deck. As you can see, it already top 8'd Lil. And if we scroll down even further, it was doing like pretty well, honestly. You know, obviously not as represented as the other decks, but like it was definitely up there, and it got top 8, you know, not even like a small top. So proving the deck being very well, getting a top 8 and getting a double finals appearance. I guess everyone has their kind of little twist on this deck right now. Not everyone specifically playing Triff's deck, but overall they are playing like a Mitsurugi Yummy build, right? So one of the things that this deck like really lacks is the fact that it cannot play one of the best hand traps in the game right now, which is Dominus Purge, which is something that the Yummy deck can play, right? And obviously I understand the sacrifice of playing Dominus Purge is that you have a higher ceiling, better matchup into your worst matchups and all that, but sacrificing this card right now into this current metagame is more important than ever. This isn't one of those formats where this card is like okay or bad. This card is genuinely very good right now, even into Mitsurugi Yummy, right? Being able to stop key cards like Saji off Habakiri, being able to stop cards like Pre-Preparation of Rites, which is, you know, this deck got second place at YCS Lille, so obviously a top, you know, 3 popular deck, if not the second most popular deck after Mitsuyami, and things like that, right? And another thing that's kind of spawned from YCS Lille is a trend of playing Cyframe Gear Delta. As we can see here, I remember seeing a list from Top 64 where Lorenzo, actually, here's the list right here, where he played Delta on his list, and he wasn't even the only player, and people are pretty much changing up their end board now using Delta to make Lambda, right? And Lambda being able to negate spell and trap cards isn't actually really that good against pure Yummy prior to this, right? But it's really good now that you've added inclusions of the Mitsurugi cards. So the Mitsurugi cards right now, due to the trends and the things that are happening to this deck, a lot of things that even pure Yummy can play to capitalize on the current trends right now, which I don't think you should be playing cards that lose to Purge and lose to Delta and a bunch of combination of other cards due to that, right? But prior to this, obviously, like, I'm just trying to reiterate my point here, is that there was no Delta into the meta, right? So, like, you know, you didn't have to worry about that. So this is kind of like a difference shift into the meta. Speaking of shifting into the meta, let's talk about Droll and Lockbird, right? Droll and Lockbird, now I know, is pretty much useless against Yummy, if not, it basically is hand looping yourself. But against Mitsurugi Yummy, it has the potential to be very well. Obviously, it can work. It like can work sometimes where, you know, you just open a good Yummy hand and you didn't see the Mitsurugi part, so Droll isn't that good against you. But you're adding this potential of Droll being very effective against your deck, and more than ever, when your opponent has a board and they have Droll and Lockbird, it really doesn't matter how much board breakers you play. And we're talking about board breakers in a little bit, but like as you can see by Triff's deck, he's playing a million board breakers. But like I said, prior to this, this card wasn't even that popular, and if it was that popular, people weren't even citing it against Yummy, and they were questioning if this card was actually good or not against Yummy. But now that the lists are coming out, people know that this is a very strong card, and even potentially now it could go into a lot of people's main decks, which was not like a concept prior to this, right? So, you know, this card being very insane. On top of that, let's talk about one of the craziest go first cards that people can actually play against Mitsurugi Yummy that isn't even good against Yummy, right? I know that this is starting to be like a comparison video to regular Yummy, but it's very true, right? A lot of times, you know, things change and we have to like go back into the past even, right? And one of those cards out there is Mistaken Arrest. This card's fucking insane against Mitsurugi Yummy, but very, very mid against regular Yummy, right? This kind of reminds me of this format of like Fiendsmith Rizal and Pure Rizal, where Pure Rizal was a projected best deck, then came along Fiendsmith Rizal, and then as we can see over time when people started cutting the D barriers because it was like quote unquote ineffective against Pure or Fiendsmith Rizal, then Rizal was able to sneak back in. This is kind of like the same concept here. No deck is better than the other. Like, it's not like I'm saying Mitsurugi Yummy is worse than Yummy or Yummy is better than Mitsurugi Yummy or whatever. I think this is just like the circle of the format and how it's like pretty much turning to form due to these events, right? Now the last thing I want to talk about is some people talk about how Dimensional Barrier, you know, really hurts Pure Yummy, but because you play Mitsu Yummy, you have rituals and you have Yummy cards, which is synchros, right? Now here's the thing, this is more of like a intermediate to an advanced concept, so if you're a noob, just click away. Okay, so let me go ahead and explain this concept basically. Is that Dimensional Barrier is often mitigated, especially Floodgate trap cards are often mitigated by the fact of how much hand traps you can play. So the point is, to be able to reduce the impact of Barrier, you need to add hand traps to your deck, because if they make a weak to no board, Dimensional Barrier is very ineffective. However, the thing is, against Mitsurugi Yummy, you have to play either board breakers or a lower amount of non-engine, because you play 7 to 8 like Mitsurugi cards, and due to that, even though Dimensional Barrier is calling one part of your engine, the problem is you're facing a full board, versus when you are playing hand traps, you're not playing against a full board. So even if you know, can play through Dimensional Barrier, you still have to get through their full combo, which isn't even easy with one portion of your deck, when you can play regular Yummy. Sure, they call synchro, but you've hand trapped them 3 times, and that should be like enough to like reduce the impact of Dimensional Barrier, right? So I just me testing, you know, just basically a whole day of this entire deck. It was just like when I was playing the breakers, it was like I couldn't beat D-Barrier, because like if you turn off synchro or ritualing, sometimes, you know, people will just call synchro, and like Ameno wipe, I mean, it's not good enough. Like, I need to use both the engines. I'm going second. Sure, like if Dimensional Barrier was like a go first card, like, you know, if I couldn't synchro my turn 0, then yeah, I guess. But like Dimensional Barrier is still very good against this deck, if not auto win sometimes. When, you know, people think that like, oh, you can just play the other portion of the engine, that's not necessarily as true as you might think. And yeah. So that's going to be it for this entire video. I think there's so many different cards and different techs that people can play and are going to play and have clearly been introduced by the YCSs and the popularity of how this deck is going. And I think right now is the perfect time to counter that by going back to the original build, or pretty much find something else, because this is one of those decks that I personally feel like once it's good, it is going to go away soon, and then probably sneak back its way in when it's considered not good anymore, right? So it's going to be it for this one. Like, comment, and sub if you guys made it this far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one.